right, graphing trig functions is probably my favorite topic in Algebra 2, really. Especially when you apply them to we just didn't have time to apply them. So anyways, they'll be applied next year. So in pre-calc. So for sine theta. So remember, sine looks like this. Okay, it starts in the middle, goes up, comes down, and then goes back to the middle. Cosine over here is similar, but it starts at the top and then ends at the top. That's its cycle. And then it just keeps repeating. Okay. So what we want to do is recognize that that's the initial pattern that we duplicate. Okay. Now they both have an amplitude of 4, and so all of that's going to change to this regular wave. It normally would go from here to 1, and then to 0, here, and then back here. Okay, that's the sine. This pattern right here would have done this, and just continue through all those major points there. Okay, but because of the amplitude of 4, what happens is that the multiplier takes each value of 1 length here and quadruples it to 4. Okay, these guys will stay 0 because 4 times 0 is going to stay 0. But when it's 1, it will actually go to the max here. Okay, and 0 will stay 0. And then when we get here, that -1 becomes a -4 and then goes back to 0. Then this guy goes back here. Now this is a full pattern, so all I have to do is just duplicate that. And that's it. 0 stays 0. Okay, so I'm just going to carefully draw it like this. All right. All right, there we go. There's 4 sine theta. Over here, the same thing, except instead of starting here and ending here like this, okay, and then right in the middle, it reaches its minimum. Okay, cosine now will go up to +4 here, and it will end at +4 there. -1 will go down to -4. Now, in between the max and the min here, right here at pi/2, that's where cosine is 0, and this is where cosine is 0 as well. So here, try to ignore this dot, that dot, and this dot, because we are up here. All right, and there's our guy with an amplitude of 4, and he will continue so that by the time we get to 3 pi, he is actually at his minimum again, and here at 5 pi/2. All right, now don't draw this guy going down. Remember, he's coming back up, so that is very important that you do bounce off of that point and go back up. And just like wise here, that guy should be pointing down, and that's a perfectionist graph. Okay. All right. So here it has changed. So now that the 3 is that, the amplitude is going to be 1, but now we've got a period shift. Okay. Now that 3 is not the period; it is related to the period. Okay. So the period equals something that is graphable. The b is just tells me the number that you need to make it work. Okay. So we've got 2 pi over the b, which is 3, and there's no reducing that. So what that tells me is that 2 pi over 3 is actually the full cycle for cosine. Okay. So cosine is going to start at 1. He's going to end at 1. So all of this is just completely extra. It's worthless space here. So I got to go to 2 pi over 3. Now I got to figure out where 2 pi over 3 is. That's not quite pi. All right. But it is smaller than 3 pi over 4. So we are going to estimate that at roughly here, okay, right there. So this means that I'm going to go 1, 2 and a half. Half, 1, 2. 1, 2 and a half. All right. Now those are max to max. And then min will happen right in the middle, and this will be an estimate because there's nothing else I can do about that. All right. You just want to draw a symmetric. You're just showing me that you've got a symmetrical idea of how cosine should operate. Okay. So what was important is that I knew it was cosine, And so I had to start at the max, and I had to end at the end of my period at that max as well. Okay, so this right there is kind of like the little microcosm of the entire function. Okay, over here, all right, goes to 4. This is going to be a little better because it's an even number. Okay, so I know it's this, but I need to do this little trick here, and I'm going to put b, but remember, I'm going to put a 4 there. Now that's nice because this means that I can reduce this as a fraction at pi over 2. So this means pi over 2 is a full cycle for cosine. So this is just a little difference. The highest is 1, and you're going to go max to max. And you can see that every pi over 2, it runs a full cycle. All right, so that's here, and that's here. All right, the min happens right in the middle of each. And this was a little easier to graph because he or she is on like each spot nicely. This over here, that odd number, really made for a kind of an estimation type of situation. Okay, now we're going to have both of them put together. So we're going to need to look at this midline here. Okay, the midline is the value that is either being added or subtracted to it. We would call these vertical shifts if we were dealing with quadratics or radicals, any of that stuff. And so the whole thing, this guy, is basically this guy that has been not lifted, but pushed downward 2 units. So we're going to go 2 units here, and we're going to draw the midline at -2. Okay, and over here, we're going to draw the midline at -1. Okay, I might as well just do these simultaneously. Okay, so now what we do is we look at this midline as the new x-axis. This is where the whole pattern is kind of anchored to. We're not anchored up here anymore, okay? We are anchored here on the midline. So from here is where we go 4 high, okay? And now we can actually ignore that negative. Just completely disavow it. We've already taken care of it. We're going to go, instead of starting our pattern at +1, which is normally what cosine does, I'm going to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I'm not at +4. I'm actually at 2 because the whole thing shifted down. Okay, and cosine goes to 2 pi is its natural formation, its natural period. All right, and so this means that he reaches his minimum here. Oh, sorry, minimum is -4 from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then that means then that he will reach his minimum here. So it should look symmetrical. Okay. All right, there he is. This guy has been shifted down 2. Over here, he's shifted down 1, but notice that I'm not going a full, period is still 2 pi. Okay, no change there. And I'm just going to go half of that 1 distance. So instead of from the midline, I'm not going a full unit, I'm going half a unit. I'm going all the way to 2 pi, that's the max. Then right in the middle, he'll hit his minimum. So it's quite small, but this pattern is going to continue. So I move across. Okay. And there we go. That is it. And I'm going to be looking very carefully where these are. Like where you hit the 0, like for example, this is a little off there. That should be right there. So I'll make it a little cleaner than that. My glasses are, I need bifocals. Okay, that is the graphing of trig functions.